Hey, there we go. It just popped back up. Daniel, let's reiterate this again. We lost stream there for a few minutes, guys. Uh, Daniel, we were just talking about, last year with the weather, everything that happened. There was a ton. I mean, we pulled to like 3 o'clock in the morning. You got Chris in the lead by 4 points, and Russell's actually only 1 point behind you. So a slip up there can bring him up to number two, or vice versa. And you got Caitlin sitting in fourth. So really, a bad weekend. If you have a one bad night, that could really, if any of those have one bad night or one really exceptional good night, that's going to be something to watch and see how that turns out. Because I can tell you right now, uh, that's a tight race. I know there's 4 points, but second, third, and fourth are only 1 point. What are you going to be able to do in order to take the lead with these guys or take that advantage from Chris?
It's going to come down to setup mostly. These tractors are very, very close together, and we pretty well share a mechanic for the most part. And Brad Gautier, he does a lot of good work, and he's on the spot when you need him, and a helping hand for pretty much all of us. So we're pretty tit for tat, in between each machine. It's going to come down to setup and driving ability, and a whole lot of luck.
Now, this is your home track. Now, Kodey, this is where I'm going to bring you in a little bit. And you brought some clay out there to that track. What kind of clay did you add to that track? Because that track was really good last year. Like it loaded every class. I don't care if it was mini rods. It's always been a big tire track, but it loaded every class really well last year. What kind of clay did you add to that bad boy?
We brought some Eastern North Carolina sand clay. Uh, the sand clay that we brought here is we have sandy soils here anyways, but we give it a little bit more clay, and we're hoping to have the moisture content right, and I hope that I hope the track will do what it's supposed to do, and I've got a good feeling about this dirt. We get it mixed in, uh, get the moisture content right. Like I said, I really believe it'll be a success.
Well,
We need something to keep from piling so much dirt in front of the buckboard, and that's my goal with this here.
Well, and that's one of the challenges on the sandy tracks. We pulled in Newport before, and if you guys have ever pulled in Newport, that was a place where it rained. I mean, I swear we had 2 inches, and then 2 hours later we were running. I mean, that's how sandy that was, and it would load everybody good, but it always takes longer to prep the track when it's like that too. That's one of the other challenges you guys seem to face down in Lumberton, but had a great show last year. You're not in regional national points this year. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with that, Kodey. You decided to play with the Grand National guys.
Yeah, we wanted to take that challenge on this year. Basically, Parrish and I have a baby on the way, and we wanted to take that, and that kind of gave us our go ahead when we found out that was coming, and uh, we wanted to take the challenge one year, and we done it and enjoyed it. But UPOC and Carolina Truck and Tractor Pullers, they right here in our home state is they deserve our respect, and uh, we want to be here to support them, and that's definitely going to be home for the next couple of years because of the simple fact that it's going to be hard to travel. And we had an awesome time, learned a lot this year. I don't know how much it shows because that's a tough group of minis out there. That's a tough group of vehicles all across the board, and it was a great experience. But it's not something that I can do every year because of work and uh, because of the baby coming, life's going to change.
Well, I mean, I think you learned quite a bit. I mean, you got a fifth and full recovery. You've had several top tens in the mix. I mean, that's one thing about it. When you're running with those guys, it is extremely tough to get that upper advantage, especially when you got 30 mini rods in one class.
Yeah, I feel like we were pretty successful to finish 8th and 14th in the points. I was pretty happy with that. Of course, you always want to do better. We always woulda, coulda, shoulda, but that's kind of in the past now. But I enjoyed it and met a lot of good people doing it and built a lot of good relationships. So, you know, all this sport is you're very competitive, but it's a social club as well. And
Oh,
just like I told last night, I said, I've met a lot of really close people to me now through truck and tractor pulling, and that's the majority of it is a social club.
well, and that's one thing we all learn about it. It is that when you go, especially in the Grand National world, that is your family for the summer because that's you're spending every weekend on the road with it. But yeah, I mean, no doubt. In my opinion, I've seen where you've made those strides in driving. One thing on a mini rod or any class, it's a lot more than just getting in it and gagging it wide open. In fact, while I got you on here, and I'm going to bring you back up in here in a second, Landon, but I'm going to add this to the stage. This was now you were no doubt they made some sled changes afterwards, but one thing I noticed on that run that is in previous years, and I should have brought up the one from last year, that tractor, and I've seen this throughout the season, instead of that tractor getting up on the wheelie bars, that tractor's kind of sitting up and it's just kind of a straight shot, a good smooth shot going down the track. Is that some of the stuff you've learned out there on the Grand National circuit?
Yeah, I think it's taught us a lot, but every track and every sled is so different with these things. I mean, so much unexpected stuff can happen with these minis. I mean, you think you got it figured out. Well, I'll go to Lumberton this weekend and it'll look like a turd. Right here at home, that's you don't want that, but uh, that's just the way the cards fall. In a minute, it's like you can never figure it out completely. I feel like our driving ability and mainly tune up and setup is helped a lot. I got to give a big thanks to Jeff Hurts, a really close friend of mine, and he's taught us a lot. Kevin Campbell and Lindsay, we worked with them all summer, and that's been a huge success. All of us working together. Um, and if you work together instead of against each other, kind of, I see it a little bit with Daniel and Caitlin and their whole Super Farm class and how those guys get along. Everybody wants to beat each other fair and square on the track. But as far
Oh
as
yeah.
if you can teach somebody or help somebody, that's that makes you feel good about it yourself. Of course, you want to win, but uh, I'll never forget this. Randy Davis, when I first got to Mini, and I know you, Daniel, you and Bart was there at the state fair in 2021.
Right.
He come up to me. I was having some bad runs, couldn't get off the line, and he gave me pointers on what to do because he wanted some tractors here to play with. He wanted to have some competition and some people to play with, and for the class to succeed and try to grow. And he was a helping hand there. That's what keeps the sport alive is trying to help each other. You don't have to let them know everything, I don't reckon, but it definitely helps to try to help you competitors when they're struggling, I guess you would say. And that's what keeps me interested in this sport.
Yeah, and you got Alan Hudson. He's come back on this year, and he's got the old IFP tractor, and he calls it Chasing a Dream now. And he had a good run on Friday night, so I think he's starting to get comfortable with it. He's learning a little bit because his other chassis couldn't quite handle what this chassis he's got now. So it's good to have some mini rides coming back into it, and I know the Cutshaws are doing some upgrades too to theirs. So maybe we'll see them at the end of the year, maybe at the NC State Fair. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to bring Landon in here just for a second. We lost him right there at the beginning. Let's see. Why is it not unmuting? There we go. Landon, how you doing, buddy?
Good.
So you got a pull coming up this weekend. What do you got? What do you got going on? Have you got everything ready to go?
Yeah, I think other than visiting the track and making sure that what all is going on out there is I think Kodey and the crew normally try to work on getting the track ready, but we have all the plans ready. all the advertising in place. The food will be ready. So I think we're ready.
Well, one thing that we were talking about the other day on the phone, you were talking about spraying for mosquitoes, and this brought back a memory. And I was talking to Wayne a few weeks ago, and we were talking about that. The first year he did Lumberton or brought Lumberton back, they didn't spray for mosquitoes. Those things will lift you out off the ground down that way. But I appreciate y'all taking care of that for us this weekend. So that's one thing I'm sure all the fans will appreciate. The weather is definitely looking a lot more in your favor than what it was earlier in the week.
Yeah, I think it appears from what I've seen in the weather that it could be the first pool that we've had where we weren't affected at least one day. I think this will be our third one, and I think the last 2 years we've had rain both Saturday nights.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think we had a rain shower last year, I think at like 4 or 5 o'clock. And then they got the track ready. We started a little late, and then like 9 o'clock, it came another flood.
Yep.
And then we got, I don't know what time we got started. In fact, Jason Schultz will be with us this weekend. He's going to be co-announcing with Mark, the new UPOC announcer. So that's one thing. There's going to be a lot of things coming in on this year. There's a lot of action happening. I'm telling you, this weekend, we're looking probably with 50 vehicles plus with the classes you got. You're looking at everything, all the things you got going on. In fact, Brad brought in, I'm going to show this up here. Brad said that was a long night. It's not, Brad, you've done Saluda, so it's no different. Everybody had a good time. Everybody hung out and stuck around for the pool. And, that kind of brought in, and I'm going to bring Daniel back up here just for a second. We were talking about that late night where we were running at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Landon, we were talking, the weather looks great. Everything's looking pretty good where it's not going to affect both night shows. You got a big crowd of people that's happening. But Daniel, we talked about that points race that you're in. With this new dirt, are you just going to go look at the track and see what's there and see what you got to do with?
Every track's different. I mean, it keeps the sport interesting. Some guys are really good at reading the track. Some guys not so good. I mean, I don't, without looking at it and holding it in my hand, I don't really know what conclusion to draw on it quite yet, but we'll see when we get there. And that's about how it is with every venue. Just kind of we'll see when we get there.
So, and I brought this up with all the different tractor classes that we've had on here before, but what tires are you running? Are you running whole shots?
I am.
You are. So what is the advantage of whole shots? Is it just like the name? Does that give you the advantage out of the whole?
The best I can tell, just tinkering with them. Like I said, I've had them on my tractor probably going into my third season now, I think. And it really took the first season to really get them figured out. I had some good passes, and I had some bad passes. And that tractor of mine's always been good about getting hooked off the line. I threw the whole shots on there, and it seemed like I struggled with it. I'd take some weight off the nose, and I'd be too high. I'd add some weight to the nose, and it just wouldn't hook. We played with some air pressure. Keeping a fresh sharp on them helps a lot. Unfortunately, we ain't going to have time to do that between now and Lumberton. It's little time crunch. It takes about 2 to 3 week turnaround in the middle of the season to get them all the way up to Chad's and back. The advantage to them that I can tell is on the big end of the track, when you need it, they'll really squat down and go. I mean, it's a tire that's cut and designed to maximize the footprint of the tractor. And with the air pressure I've been playing with, I've been able to get them to where I can hook them more consistently on the line across different types of dirt. I know based on how the sled's set up, which if you first hook, you don't really know how it's set up, but you can kind of sit in the hole back there if you're third or fourth hook, and you can see the pan rise on the sled when they're leaving the line, and you can kind of tell, I need to move some weight here because I need that ground pressure out of the hole to get the tractor moving. But you don't want to move too much because, on the big end of the track, it's going to squat down and go to hooking. And if you lose that drawbar leverage on the big end of the track, it can cost you some crucial inches. That super farm class is a game of inches.
Well, and that's one thing about your class. 9,300 pounds, maximum cubic inches 640. Is that what it is? So you got 640 cubic inches. You're running that 3-inch turbo inlet and outlet. But now you can modify that turbo. Unlike the Pro Farms, they got to run a box. You can run a modified turbo. So is there any, I know that was kind of, I talked to Perry before, and he said, I've got a whole shelf of super farm turbos when they used to run super farms. Is it kind of that way with y'all? Y'all have to find the latest and greatest of what's out there?
Because the class is so close, yes. But they've kind of gotten to the point now where they've almost maximized what they can do. And they're more or less now building in durability. And, what I mean by that is, beefing up the shaft, beefing up the bearings. They've gotten the housings tightened down about as tight as they can get them, and they're turning them about as hard as they can turn them. If they tighten down the housings anymore, the bearings won't hold. If they, we probably go through a turbo every 2 seasons. We'll send them off every winter to be freshened up. And what I mean by that is they'll send them back to Michigan, back to Ryan. He'll go to his guy, his specialist. They'll tear them down. They'll put fresh bearings in them. They'll go through, clean them up, look them over, make sure they're ready for the next season, send them back. But as far as the upgrades go, we've been going through an upgrade on a turbocharger about every 2 years. And sometimes you'll get a few extra pounds of boost out of them.
Right.
And some years they just build durability into them. So they won't, you eat the bearing in the charger, and that wheel gets off balance because of how tight the clearances are. You start chewing teeth off of it, and it sends it through that crossover pipe and down through the intake. You're pulling the head off and cleaning up some pistons and getting shrapnel out of the rest of the motor.
And hopefully it didn't cause any damage. So I'm going to bring this up real quick. Looking at Super Farm points right now, Chris is in the lead only by 2 points. You're in second. Rodney is in third. And, Rodney, we had a little health scare with Rodney, and we hope he's doing better. We had a little scare in Winston-Salem, but glad he's doing okay. Russell's sitting in fourth at 50 points. So really, you've got 4 hooks. Well, you got 4 hooks left between State Fair and do y'all get points for Wilson on that one night, or is that just a?
We don't.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I knew it used to be that way, but I used to get some points, but not like it was like an equal amount or whatever. And then I think they took it away. But looking at it right here, so you're only talking about 6 points from fourth to first. And Rodney with the Melon Mania, that tractor has really come on. That John Deere's gotten really strong. And Russell, you can't cut Russell out. I know Chris and Russell, they always talk a little junk, and Brad Gautier, but that class is pretty tight. Like you said, that's a big family class there. Those guys, you guys pull against each other, but you're going to do what you can to help them out. It doesn't matter if it's green or red. But looking at the points right now, there's only 6 points. So, one bad hook can make the difference in the final points of the year. I'm going to run down here. Zachy's still in the lead in the Pro Farm. Darren's sitting in number 2, only 2 points behind. And unfortunately, I don't think we probably won't see Brent anymore this year. He had an engine failure. Hot Farm class is huge right now. Super Stocks, Chris is in the lead. Light Pros. Right now, Perry is sitting in the lead by 4 points on Hunter. And Kendall's sitting in third. Actually, those two are tied. James Van Hoyt's down there with 36 points. Minis, Alan Hudson sitting at 61. And Kodey's sitting second and third. And looking at four-wheel drives, Glenn's still in the lead by 1 point. Brandon is in the lead by 5 points with John Pickler sitting number 2. Speaking of two-wheel drives, let's bring this up. I'm going to bring everybody in on this one. I want to bring this up. We have new people to come into the sport all the time. But one thing I noticed this weekend, we watched some great pulling action in Winston-Salem, had great weather, had a great turnout for Saturday night. Let's look at something right here. I'm going to add this to the page. This is Carson. So that was his first ever run on a two-wheel drive. Now I want to get all of y'all's opinion on this. I'm gonna get Landon's, Daniel, and Kodey's on this. Let me unmute Kodey on this too. If that was the first time if you had never knew this was his first hook, what would you have thought? Landon, you go first. If that was the first time you didn't know he had been driving, this was his first time, what would you have thought by that run?
I thought he looked pretty good to me.
He looked like he'd been driving it more than the first time. Daniel, what was your thoughts? Would you have loved to have driven the first time that smooth?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna be tough. I can tell you that now. He's not scared of it. He come right out of the box hot. Hey, he's pretty daggone good.
Yeah, I mean that was I actually made this was a long time ago, 2003. I made my first ever run here in Winston-Salem with the turbine, one to go. That track's a little tricky too because you got to remember that first part of that track is brought in. So especially that first night and the second night gets a little better, but with what Steven and Perry do to bring that track in and build it up, they do a heck of a job. But hats off to Carson on that one, 316. I think he ended up fourth. Brandon ended up taking the win on that on Saturday night. And right now he's leading in the points in the two-wheel drive class. One thing we got to look at for also Region 4 points with the two-wheel drive class, they only get 2 hooks in Lumberton. So that's all they're going to get. And so it's going to come down to whoever wins or is in the top 2 or 3 both nights is going to get the opportunity to represent Region 4. So that's a little bit different. The other classes get multiple hooks. And this is something, let me bring you back in on this, Kodey, for a second. We were talking about the points here. So basically the only ones that are running for points is going to be Mary, Kevin Hill, because Aggravation, that tractor is still parked, and he's got the new tractor. So really, you only have 3 or 4 right now that are actually running for Region 4 points. And Mary is way ahead of everybody else as far as in that.
Yeah, I told them a couple weeks ago, I told Mike and Mary, because I don't know if they were planning to come down here. They've kind of scheduled themselves to have a light year because they went to overseas, and kudos to them. They went over there and put on a good show, and it was a good experience for them. And then they come to Bowling Green, and Saturday night they definitely showed out. I told them, I said, well, we'd love to have you back in Lumberton. They said, well, we don't know about if we're going to end up coming back or not. We got a lot going on. And I kind of sweet talked them a little bit. And I told them, I said, hey, we'd sure love to have you down there. It's a good time. And they're definitely coming from my understanding. And we can't wait to see them. It's always good to have our friends that go and support us here at home. And whether it's an Enderle thing or not, we enjoy hanging out with Mike and Mary. And Kevin and Lindsay's always a good time. I think those guys plan to come. And Jeff Hurt, he's got some obligations this weekend. Kind of hated to see him. He was definitely leading in the points here out of Raleigh. He had a good weekend there.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a regional national license. I kind of hated to see him not come and follow through with that. But I totally get it. They got a big money pool this weekend and a points deal for them with PPL. Kind of little bit. I hate that kind of fell on the same weekend of Lumberton. That kind of sucks. But it's I guess they considered a little different league of pulling and didn't schedule that. But
we call him Mr. Excitement, or that's his nickname in the Grand National world and the pulling world. They call him Mr. Excitement. That dude is wired from one end to the other. I mean, he is that. I'm telling you, I wish I had a third of the energy that dude's got. That dude is bouncing off the walls everywhere he goes. But I can tell you this much: if your tractor breaks, he's going to be the first one there to try to help you out, no doubt.
Yeah, Jeff will give you the shirt off his back now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we're going to miss him here this year. Daniel, so we're going to bring you back in on, and I want to ask, I'm going to bring up an old video of yours, and this is State Fair last year. this is after the inches and inches of rain. We were talking about tires. So let's bring this one up right here. Right here. So tell us what happened in that run, because that track was tricky as all get out. What were you looking at on that run? What was your goal for the night with that pass at the NC State Fair?
Well, I was hoping for a win. You know, anytime we back up and bump the sled, it's game time and everybody's wanting to win, but you know, don't always work out that way. Just looking at it there, knowing the characteristics of my tractor, you saw the nose kind of bobbing, and it never really did pick it up. It acted like it wanted to, but it kind of, the rear end swayed from side to side, and it kind of bounced that nose out there and never did carry it any. Logan sets his sled up pretty much 180 from the UPHC sled. In that particular year, I might have hooked the Logan sled one time.
Right.
If you look back, Chris ended up winning both of those days, but Chris also won the points with the Carolina Truck and Tractor Pullers. Him and Brad spent a lot of time figuring out that sled, and they had it down to a T, and they laid down the best pass that night is all it boils down to. You know, you're talking about earlier when we, you know, whether the pan picks up on the sled or not, you know, right out of the hole, determines how you move the weights on your tractor and how much you're going to have loaded on the drawbar in the first 100 foot. You have to set your tractor up for the load you're going to be pulling, and I didn't do that night. It was a good run. It just wasn't a winning run.
Yeah, and that's one thing about it. It was like Kodey was talking about. You're pulling on different sleds. You know, you might pull the UPOC sled, and then you might go pull the Iron Boy, or you know, you might pull several different sleds in one season. And even though a lot of them are designed similar, they may respond totally different as far as setup, depending on who's operating it.
Well, the operator has so many different options to choose from. He can add a block, he can move the trip, he can change the gear, he can change the block out on the box. It seems to me like Logan likes to have a little lighter load from the starting line with the super farms. He's been running a block in the nose for the light pros because they need that drawbar weight to get out of the hole.
Yeah.
And you know, they change from year to year the same way we do. They change their opinion on things. It's an ever evolving sport. And they're constantly learning their machine just like we're constantly learning ours. Particular year, the few times I hooked to his sled, the pan picked up right out of the hole. You know, it was just like pulling an empty trailer versus hooking to the UPOC sled. A lot of people compare that to being hooked to a stump out of the hole. It's hard to get moving, but it's more evenly loaded.
Setup, yeah.
It's more evenly loaded because it's a little heavier on the starting line, but he runs a lower gear in that box. The load gradually comes up to you. It weighs the tractor down, and it puts a gradual stop to you. Logan and the Bauer sleds seem to be easy to get out of the hole, but down there about 250 feet, you can feel that box pop you in the back, and it shake you around the roll cage a little bit. That weight come up on you quick. And that new sled of Bauer's, it's even worse than the UPOC sled to get started. It is heavy. He added 1.5 feet to the pan, and man, I'm telling you what, you got to be on your P's and Q's, because if you hook to that sled and you're weighted for, you know, like the green sled he's got is very similar to the way Logan sets his sled is how his green sled pulls. Well, and if you're not on your P's and Q's hooking to that red sled, you'll be on the wheelie bars right out in the hole.
Yeah, and that's something, you know, which sled do you, when you actually never got to hook? We were talking about Bowling Green the other day, but you didn't get to hook on the afternoon session because of the rain.
I pulled the red K sled of Bowers at the Enderle. I pulled it twice in Freedom Hall and once in Bowling Green. And every single time I've had to ride the clutch further than any sled I've ever been hooked to, because with that 9,300 pound super farm, I'm heavy. The sled's heavy. If it binds me down out of the hole, I can't leave like my hair's on fire. I've got to baby it. I've got to feather it, because if I don't, we'll be on the wheelie bars and we'll go for a wild ride.
Yeah, in fact, Brandon was just brought this up. It helps him take off being a little heavier out of the hole, and that's one of the things. And you were just talking about sleds, and Kodey was talking about And I was used to driving a UPOC sled, and then I went to Saluda one year to make a couple of runs, and Sam Swan was running that sled, and he runs it a lot like a lot of the other sled operators out in the Midwest. So when I came out of the hole, I was not used to all that ground speed. I was used to just kind of smooth and steady, and then build up my speed. And the first time I drove, I think I would have gone 450 foot if it wasn't for if I hadn't had to make a left, a right, a left, a right, a left, a right. So
Yeah. Well, and it's you got to consider the vehicles too. I mean, what a lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize is I'm in a 9,300-pound vehicle with a big tire, and he's in a 6,200 vehicle with a small tire. What works for him don't always work for me. The light pros, they're a big tire, but they're 8,500 pounds, and they turn the wheels 100 miles an hour. If they don't have any weight out of the hole, they'll melt them down in the first 100 foot. Same way with them 6,200-pound two-wheel drives. They've got to have some drawbar pull on the line.
Oh, that's right, because they got a 30-inch.
6,200 don't move 80,000 without being locked to the ground. The math.
And they got that high drawbar. They got a 30-inch drawbar, so that makes a difference as far as that goes. Yeah, that's Brandon agreeing with you on that. I think your mom is jumping in on this one. Yeah, love this super fun.
She's sitting across the living room from me, goofing around.
All right, Landon, I'm gonna throw you in on this one, and we're gonna start wrapping this up because everybody's got a busy week ahead of them, and we got some things to get ready for this weekend. Jason Schultz will be there this weekend. I talked to him a couple of times this week. He's going to be there. We got Matthew Carter with Carter's Pulling Picks going to be videoing that. I'll be there with Full Pull. We're going to be doing a live stream Saturday morning with looking at the weather. We may move it to later in the afternoon, but we definitely want to do one there at the track. Maybe we can get some guys doing a little warm up and get a little action sitting there in the background. Landon, so you're ready to go. You got any last words of advice for the people planning to go to Lumberton this weekend?
Not really, other than try to get there a little bit early. Crowd really seems to pour in about 6 o'clock.
Well, y'all got, and tell us a little bit. This is a fundraiser for your fire department. Tell us a little bit about, because y'all got a new facility and stuff. It's a couple of years old. But tell us a little bit about what that money goes towards.
So, obviously, as a fire department, we can't use our tax-based money for anything other than fire department activities, equipment, training, and so forth, obviously, for the facility. But so the money that we raise will go back into the community to help, with people who's maybe sick or maybe burn out or something like that. So we right. Put that money back into the community in a little different manner than the services that we provide.
But y'all have a great, the first time I met you, I drove up from Myrtle Beach and I met you over there at the old fire station, and y'all were still building the new one. This new fire station is right down the street. So it's not like you went 10 miles down the road from it, but you went right down the street. Y'all built a first-class fire department. Tell us a little bit about the history of your fire department.
So I think the department was founded in 1971. We started with a two-bay, basically a little hut. No meeting space, nothing. Just 2 bays to put 2 trucks in. They added on to that station 4 times. They made an upstairs for meeting space, and then we added on 2 more times to get more truck space. We've always provided fire protection, but we've always also been involved in the community and a little bit more of an outreach kind of deal. So which is where this money would go. 2000 and I would say probably about 2010, 11, we started looking at expanding, realizing that fire trucks had just outgrew the old facility. It
was pretty tight when I went in there that day. There was like, there was literally, you had enough room, and I'm a big guy, so me trying to fit in between those two fire trucks was a little tight. But that process, like you said, I'm sorry, continue on. Y'all started looking to expand in 2011, but
Yeah, so originally we looked to expand. We actually looked at tearing the old station down and building back where we were, but the facility is too close to the highway. We couldn't meet setbacks for the state, and in 2017, the piece of property that the new station's on came available for sale. We purchased it. So at that point, all the plans we had were now no good because we have plans for a station where the old station was. So we went back to the drawing board, and the new facility is almost 12,000 square feet. We have 8 bays, drive through. I would say it's probably one of the most state of the art facilities at least in Robeson County for fire service. We tried to cross all our T's, dot all our I's as we were building it. And since then, we've also figured out that, we built a facility that the community can use. They've had several events, fundraising events at our station that, we just didn't have a place to have before we built the facility that we have.
Well, how many calls do y'all average a year?
So on an average year, we run about 300. If it's dry, where woods fires, we can get up to about 500.
Wow.
We have 32 firemen on the roster right now.
And the Prospect Fire Department's volunteer, correct?
We're 100% volunteer. We actually brought to our membership the year before we started construction on the new building to become paid by call, and the membership voted it down. They chose to stay full volunteer instead of being paid by call because they wanted a new facility, and they felt like the funding would be better spent there.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. Landon, I appreciate you joining us here tonight. I'm going to leave the last couple of Daniel, I'm going to bring you in on this one here. Yeah, just hang tight, Landon. I'm going to bring you, if y'all can hang out before we close this out. Daniel, what are your words of advice for this weekend?
Bring your A game. It's going to be some new dirt. It's going to be hooking hard. You're going to need to have all your bolts tight and be ready to run. Everybody get there early, like Landon said, and come hungry because they're going to have food for sale. And we're looking to put on the show, looking to have a good time.
They sell some hot dogs at that place now. I promise you that. There ain't no doubt about it. They sell some hot dogs.
Them boys work hard too.
All right, so right now, you've got to make up 4 points for regional Asheville. You think you can do it?
Time will tell. I've come in there before with a 1 point lead, finished dead last on Friday, ended up back 2 points, come in and won on Saturday, and left out of there headed for the Enderle next week. So stranger things have happened.
That's for sure. Anything can happen. Mark joining in. He says he can't wait. I know he's ready to be out there. That's a great crowd, folks. I can tell you that place will fill up. And that crowd, there's no other crowd like it. Lumberton, I'm telling you, I love the crowd down there. Those guys get wound up. Kodey, your words of advice. Any last words for this weekend? Yeah.
Come ready to play.
Well, you're ready to play. You're actually close to home. Yeah, I'm sure you're like this. You've traveled a few miles this year, no doubt. So,
I'm telling you, me and Parrish is tickled pink to be within 20 minutes from home, and we've traveled all over the world. And I told somebody yesterday, I said, it's been since the beginning of June since I've slept in my own bed on Friday and Saturday night, and I'm 1 weekend away from doing that.
Whether you're excited, it's the little things in life. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining us. Don't forget this weekend, there's going to be tons of action there. Get there early Friday, Saturday. You definitely don't want to miss it. It's going to be a big show, tons of action. Folks, I'm excited about it. I mean, this weekend, September 6th and 7th, 7 p.m. Admission's $20, 13 and up, 6 to 12, $10, 5 and under free. Going to be a big show, tons of action. If you like diesels, we got them. If you like blower motors, you got them. We got all kinds of stuff here for you. Pedal pull, Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Don't forget about that. That is free for the kids. I know Jeremy and Cheryl will be waiting for that and ready to go with that. Don't forget, go to angryduck.com, look under United Pullers of the Carolinas, buy your merchandise. If you're going to be at Lumberton this weekend, don't go online and buy it. Go right there. Francis and them will be there selling it for you. Folks, appreciate you joining us here tonight. We're going to end this up here tonight. If you got any questions, send this to us, upocpulling.com or UPOC Pulling on Facebook, Lumberton 300 Truck and Tractor Pulling on Facebook. Just message us. We'll get back to you if you got any questions, concerns, or somebody you want to see or talk to on Saturday. We will be doing a live stream Saturday. When I know the time, I will definitely post it. Good night. God bless. And we will see you this Friday in Lumberton, North Carolina.